The greatest mystery in the universe isn't dark matter. It's happening inside your head right now. Have you ever stopped to wonder, what is this thing we call consciousness? That inner voice you're using to listen to me right now? That feeling of being you, experiencing the world, seeing the color red, tasting a strawberry, feeling the warmth of the sun on your skin. It seems so simple, so fundamental to our existence, right? Well, here's a mind bender for you. Science, for all its incredible advancements, still has no idea what consciousness actually is or where it comes from. It's one of the biggest, most profound mysteries left to solve. Let's back up a bit. We can describe what consciousness does. It's our awareness of ourselves and the world around us. It's our subjective, private experience. I can know you have a brain, I can scan it, I can see neurons firing, but I can never, ever experience your consciousness. I can't feel your sadness or see the exact shade of blue you see. This is what philosophers call the hard problem of consciousness. The easy problems, relatively speaking, are things like how the brain processes information, how it controls behavior, how we focus our attention. Scientists are making great progress on those. But the hard problem, why do we have this inner movie, this subjective experience at all? That's the real stumper. Think about your brain. It's about 3 pounds of wrinkly, jelly-like tissue. It's made of about 86 billion neurons, which are just cells. These neurons communicate using tiny electrical and chemical signals. So the billion-dollar question is, how does a bunch of mushy biological stuff firing electrical signals give rise to the rich, vibrant experience of being alive? How do you get the feeling of listening to your favorite song from a bunch of interacting cells? There's a huge gap between the physical processes in the brain and the subjective experience of consciousness. It's like trying to explain how a pile of bricks can feel love. Scientists have come up with a bunch of fascinating theories to try and bridge this gap. One of the leading ideas is called integrated information theory, or IIT. It suggests that consciousness is a property of any system that has a certain kind of complex, integrated information. The more a system's parts are interconnected and communicate in a way that can't be broken down, the more conscious it is. According to this theory, your brain is incredibly conscious because its different parts are constantly sharing a massive amount of integrated information. But it also suggests that, in principle, other complex systems, even the internet someday, could have some degree of consciousness. It's a wild idea that treats consciousness as a fundamental property of the universe, like mass or charge. Then there's the global workspace theory. This one is a bit more down to earth. It compares consciousness to a theater stage. Your brain is constantly processing tons of information unconsciously, like actors backstage. But when a piece of information becomes important enough, it gets broadcast onto the stage of your consciousness. Once it's on the stage, it's available to all the other parts of your brain, your memory, your language centers, your planning centers. So consciousness is simply what happens when information goes global in the brain's network. It's less about a mysterious inner feeling and more about a specific kind of information processing. This theory is great at explaining how we focus our attention and bring things into our awareness, but even these top theories have their problems. For integrated information theory, it's really hard to measure this integrated information thing. How do you actually calculate the level of consciousness in a system? And for global workspace theory, it explains what consciousness does. It broadcasts information, but it still doesn't quite explain why it feels like something to have that information broadcast. The hard problem remains. Why isn't it all just happening in the dark without any subjective experience? Why isn't we just a very complex robot, a philosophical zombie, that can act and talk just like a conscious person, but has no inner life at all? This has led some thinkers to go in even more radical directions. What if consciousness isn't produced by the brain at all? What if the brain is more like a radio receiver or an antenna that tunes into a consciousness that exists outside of us, a field of consciousness that permeates the universe? This is a more spiritual or philosophical take, and it's very difficult to test scientifically, but it highlights how stumped we really are. Another mind-bending idea comes from quantum mechanics. Some physicists and philosophers, like Roger Penrose, have proposed that consciousness arises from quantum processes inside the microtubules of our brain's neurons. They think that the strange rules of the quantum world, like superposition, are necessary to explain the mystery of subjective experience. This is highly controversial, and most neuroscientists are skeptical, but it shows how far people are willing to go to find an answer. And it's not just a philosophical puzzle. The mystery of consciousness has huge real-world implications. Think about medicine. How do we know if a patient in a coma or a vegetative state is conscious? They can't tell us. If we had a true theory of consciousness, we could potentially develop a consciousness meter to find out. This would change how we treat these patients and make end-of-life decisions. What about artificial intelligence? Are we close to creating a conscious AI? How would we even know if we did? If an AI says, "I feel sad," is it just mimicking human language, or is it actually experiencing sadness? Without understanding our own consciousness, we're flying blind as we build more and more intelligent machines. The quest to understand consciousness is, in a way, the quest to understand ourselves at the most fundamental level. We are these strange loops of awareness experiencing the universe from a unique first-person perspective. The answer, when we finally find it, might require a complete revolution in our understanding of physics, biology, and reality itself. It might turn out that consciousness is an emergent property of complex networks, a fundamental feature of the cosmos, or something so strange we can't even imagine it yet. For now, it remains the ultimate scientific frontier. The next time you simply look at your hand and feel that it's your hand, take a moment to appreciate the profound mystery you're living inside. It's the most familiar thing in the world, and yet it's the greatest puzzle of all.